There we are. We are live on Facebook. Yay! Cami figured it out. CamiBaker.com here with Fabulous, Fierce, and On Fire Fridays with Friends, featuring today Brian Wright. Brian is someone who was introduced to me by a mutual friend, Stacy, I believe it was. Wasn't it, Stacy?
Mm-hmm.
And we just hit it off immediately. Stacy told me that Brian has a radio show. He's got a magazine. He's just fabulous and fierce and on fire. So we get on the phone and we hit it off thick as thieves, like we've known each other forever. And so obviously, I want to have people on the show that are not only fabulous, fierce, and on fire, but bring a total value to what we're talking about. And since Brian has interviewed people like Kevin Harrington and my fave, Darren Hardy, I would have Darren's baby. That's right, Darren Hardy. If you hear this interview, I would have your baby. And because Brian has interviewed all these people and has such a strong hold on media and posturing and repositioning ourselves, we want to talk to Brian today about what he can do to help us do something like have one of these, because this is one of the best calling cards you will ever have. Brian, take it away. Share with our viewers, not just what you do, because you know that's one of my pet peeves. Why do you do it? How do you do it? Who do you do it for?
That is a wonderful and awesome question. I host a personal development radio show called Success Profiles Radio. And one of the reasons I do it is so that I can interview my heroes and my mentors, some of whom you have named. And it's interesting too, because I do want to educate, motivate, and inspire people to be the very best version of themselves. But for a slightly more selfish reason, it's a great way to get coaching with all these wonderful people for an hour, when many of them would charge hundreds or even thousands of dollars an hour for their time or to speak on stage. And so when they want to come on my radio show and talk to me about what they're doing in the world and how they overcame their obstacles to achieve their level of success, it's just really inspiring. And a lot of people who listen to the show tell me that has been effective for them too. And the people who subscribe are very, very happy to continue listening. And so Success Profiles Radio is on iTunes. Download and subscribe. That would be awesome. The other thing that I'm doing now is I'm extending that radio show brand into a magazine called Success Profiles Magazine. I have 3 issues in the can right now, and we are really literally on the 2-yard line to launching. Just some administrative back end things right now, but the people who are on the cover are people who have been on my show, and I curate material from my show to the magazine, which is really smart. If you've created content once, why not use it many, many times? If it's great material, why not? Because here's the thing. Some people will listen to your show, whether it's in the car, whether it's as background noise, whether it's going to sleep, whatever reason you have for listening to an audio. But some people will rather read, and you have to help people have access to you in whatever ways they prefer to listen or prefer to learn. We all have different learning styles. We all, spend time listening or watching or whatever senses we choose to engage, but we do tend to lean toward a specific preference. And so people who don't hear my show might see my magazine, or they might watch me do a Facebook Live like this, or they might read a blog post, or they might be connected to me because someone else is already listening or watching or engaging in with what I'm already doing. So it's like you're spider webbing, and you talk about this in your book. Get yourself out there in as many ways as you can, and eventually you will catch something worth catching.
Well, and this is awesome, because I love what you said about it gets your foot in the door with these mentors. You're getting coaching that could have been tens of thousands. I mean, Darren Hardy, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
I think Kevin Harrington and all the others. And so, it not only is it good mentoring for you, but it also is positioning to be able to talk to those people and network and create that net web of contacts. And now in your Rolodex are names like that of people that know you because you invited them on your show. I am finding the same thing, not only with Fabulous, Fierce, and On Fire, but also as the guest host of the Happiness Jungle TV show and things like that. It gives us a foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to actually have you share with our listeners and viewers today is not everybody is as out there as we are doing TV shows and creating magazines. Like, that's overwhelming. I wouldn't even know how to create a magazine. Be like, what? How do you do that? But there is something that people can create that you can help them with that will help them to be seen, be heard, and be the authority in their industry. Talk to us, Brian, a little bit about what you can do to help us get one of these in our hands.
Well, I do ghostwriting for people. And so what that basically means is if you have a book inside you, which I believe everyone does, I can help bring that out. I think research shows that over 80% of people wish they had a book or say, I want to write a book someday, but many of them never really get around to it. And there are reasons why. Number one, they don't think they're good enough writers. If you got a C or a D or heaven forbid an F in English, maybe you think that you're disqualified from the opportunity to write your book. That is wrong. Robert Kiyosaki said in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he is a best-selling author. He's not a best writing author. Robert Kiyosaki did not do well in English in school, and he would probably be the first one to tell you. But what you have to do is have your ideas, have it organized. And if someone is available like a ghostwriter to help you get that message out in a very coherent way, it can save you a lot of time. Think about top name celebrities, and we'll talk about, let's just cite, Trump, Clinton, Obama, whatever. People who are celebrities, do you think they sit down at their keyboard and type? No, they don't have time. I mean, Trump wrote a lot of books, authored a lot of books before he became president. He would have someone dictate what he was saying, or he would talk into a recorder and have someone transcribe it. That's a really great way to get your message out. Having a ghostwriter, though, can help you organize that and have a coherent message that makes sense so that it doesn't look like a jumbled hot mess of whatever. So that's what I can do. And I can help you do that. I have resources that can help get the book formatted and laid out. I have someone who helps me design book covers and just the whole gamut. And I've had several completed projects, and I've got some projects on the docket now, and people who do want to work with me. So it's really, really great. And I get to be the person in the background. And the beautiful thing about having a ghostwriter is that person's name doesn't appear in your book. My name does not appear in your book. It is your name, your title. You authored the book.
And the great thing about working with you is, and I can't put this out there to just be the given, but if your people that you're ghostwriting for qualify, then they could potentially be a guest on your radio show. They could potentially be a contributor in your magazine. Because just like you and I were talking about before we pressed record, it's all about positioning who you are in the marketplace. It's my tagline. Be seen, be heard, be the authority in the marketplace. And all of that happens by setting the intention, paying attention, and creating the retention. And the way that we set the intention is, how are people seeing you? And it is so true that people respect an author even more than they do doctors anymore. Talk to us about that, because you're an author. You help people get their book out and on paper. How do you see that helping people in business? Absolutely.
If one of the things that you want to do is speak on a stage, having a book certainly helps. If two equal candidates are looking to get a spot on someone's stage and one has a book and one doesn't, the person who has the book is perceived to be more authoritative. Now, whether that is actually true or not is up for discussion, but it's all about, marketing is all about managing perceptions, is it not? So having a book will help you manage that other person's perception of you. Getting on podcasts, getting on radio shows, getting asked to speak at a live event, even creating your own live event. And not only that, but having a book. Let's just say that, for example, you're an auto mechanic. Now you might think, auto mechanic, write a book? Sure, why not? Because think about this. Wouldn't it be great if your auto mechanic had a book, not an owner's manual for a car, because that's boring and technical and no one understands that stuff anyway, right? But if someone had a really simple how-to guide or a why guide, why you should change your tires on a regular basis, why you should change your oil. If something is wrong with your car, then this might be it. That person can give enough information to intrigue them to want to ask about helping you or being a client. Because again, if there are 20 mechanics in your area and only one of you has a book and everyone knows that you're the one that has the book, they'll probably be more likely to think that you're able to answer their questions.
No doubt about it. And you can use it. That guy can use it as a free opt-in. Put your email here to receive my free 50-page book on ways to make your car last longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea that you talk about using that in that way, because a number of my authors aren't necessarily looking to sell thousands and thousands of copies on Amazon. Some of them are using it as a free thing to generate leads, because here's the thing, leads lead to sales. And if you have a free opt-in and you're building your list, you can market your list anytime you want. So if business is slow, come up with an offer, hit send, you'll have a few people. It's a way of evening out your roller coaster a little bit, because some seasons are slower than others in many businesses. So you want to even that out a little bit. It's a chance to communicate with them, not just to sell every time. I know some of the big marketers and speakers who have an offer every time they email, and I'm just about done with some of them.
And to your point, that they always have something to sell, but when you have a book, you can actually send out a chapter of it as value, or here's another point from my book. Or, like when I did mine, I created videos because, you are ghostwriting for people. And by the way, for those people that are watching, you don't have to have a big outline and a big format. And, when you talk with somebody like Brian, he will pull out the information and he can go back and write it. You don't have to have it all figured out. That's the beauty of it. That's why you're hiring a professional to do that. Yeah. And so for me, I just finally figured out, I'm spending I spent 2 years. What am I going to write? How am I going to write it? When am I going to find the time? I'd sit down and write for hours at a time, and it was too complicated and convoluted. And I finally just got enough ideas from seminars that I went to, which, by the way, cost me tens of thousands of dollars to go to seminars to finally get this one little tip. And I created a bunch of videos and had the videos transcribed, gave the transcription to my editor and said, here, make a book out of it. But all of those videos and all of that now I can use as free content. You were talking about repurposing.
Right.
See, guys, it is so much about repurposing. It's about working smarter and not harder. It's like when I talk about how networking doesn't work, it wastes time with random activity. Netwebbing leverages time through planned strategy, because that book that I have, people will say to me, like you just said, not everybody wants to make millions of dollars off their book. Would I love to make $1 million from selling books at $20 a piece? Sure, I would. But I don't want to stand in the back of the room peddling a book for $20. I want to give it out for free. Anybody that's watching this, send me a message and I'll send you the PDF for free. And when I do sell them at events for $20, I give part of the proceeds to a cause, because cause marketing is so important. But having this book and having someone like Brian to write it for you takes it off your plate so you can stay focused on that which the book is about.
Right.
Yeah. So talk to us about some of the books that you've written and the kinds of clients that you're looking for. Like, who's the perfect avatar for you?
The perfect client for me is an entrepreneur, busy entrepreneur who knows what their message is. I've talked to people who are not entrepreneurs and they want their autobiography written. The question I usually ask is why? And that question shocks some people, because the answer is usually because I've always wanted to. It's like, no. Let me clarify. The question is, why should your readers care? Now, your friends and family will buy it by default, but someone who doesn't know you needs to have a reason to want to engage with what you're doing. Why? And if you can't answer that, and if I have to ask you 8 different ways and you still don't have any idea, that's going to be tough. I mean, that's not a book that I'm probably going to enjoy doing, because it just means that you haven't really figured anything out yet. So my ideal client is an entrepreneur, preferably an established or busy entrepreneur who already knows what their message is, and they just don't have time to do it. In fact, I'm working with a client right now who's written 2 of his own. He's written 2 of his own books. He just doesn't have time. And so he wanted to source that out so that he could focus on his zone of genius. So that's the thing. Do the things that you're really good at and let other people do the things that you are either not good at or just simply don't have time for or just don't want to. I love how Loral Langemeier talks about this. She says, I mean, don't do your own laundry. Hire someone to do that. Don't clean your house. Hire someone else to do that. Don't change the oil in your own car. Hire someone else to do that, because you have to think about this. There is a return on your time. If you charge, let's say, hypothetically, $300 an hour for your time, and it takes 20 minutes to change, or it takes you, an hour to figure out how to change your own oil or to do it, why wouldn't you just pay a professional $30 to do it instead of spending what is equivalent to $300 of your own time doing it yourself? You think you're saving a lot of time, but you're not, because you could be using that hour to build your business.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Loral Langemeier. I saw her on stage one time. There was a guy that was presenting this idea of teaching people how to write a book. Of actually having a course to teach people how to write a book. And look, there's a market for that. There are people who would take that course. But Loral said, I'm an author. Like, I have a dozen books with my picture and my name and all that. She says, but I've never sat down and written a book. I don't want somebody to teach me how to do it. I want them to do it for me. I've authored them, but I didn't write them. She said, there's a big difference in writing your book and authoring your book. And it was like a 2x4 in my head. Wow, that's so true. It's so true. You don't have to just sit down and write it, but you can be the author of it. Think about it. When I or any other person who has a book, we say, I'm the author of Mingle to Millions. I don't say I'm the writer of Mingle to Millions. I might say I've written a book, because it just depends on the right language. But at the end of the day, I'm the author of a book.
Yeah. Absolutely. And a lot of people who have built thriving businesses don't have time, because they will make more money focusing on their zone of genius. And if they don't want to spend time, they'll hire that out. And here I am. I'll help you do that. So that's perfect. Other people who come to a ghostwriter aren't good writers. Some just don't want to, and others just don't have time. And so I think we've covered the gamut of that. And the ghostwriter remains anonymous. It's your name, it's your picture, it's your everything. You own the rights to all of it.
And one of the reasons, if I may be so bold, that you like working with entrepreneurs is we are entrepreneurs. We understand the mindset, and an entrepreneur business owner has usually, ultimately, at least for me in my case with my book, because it is a bit of a self-help or a book that you can put into practice. It's not a fiction novel. It's an actual nonfiction. Here's some stuff you can do. And the majority of entrepreneurs that you work with, I'm going to guess, would be like that, like the mechanic that you mentioned, or maybe a real estate agent who writes a book about how to get your house ready for selling, etc. So when they invest with you to get this book written, they understand the return on investment. And once again, the return on investment doesn't mean that you're going to go out and sell gobs of books. And if you do, that's awesome. But it's also about how to use the book. Can you speak to me at all about how you help people to use their book? And do you have any kind of system with that? Any social media or any ideas around marketing of the book?
I tell people, if they've got a list, that's a great way to start, because people will, they will market to their own people first. And that just makes the most sense, because the people who are already in your circle are the people who are most likely to buy. I talk to people about using live events or speaking on other people's stages in terms of a speak to sell kind of format to do that. And that's also a really great way to do it. Affiliate JV marketing is also a great way. If you are, like, for example, I'll just give you a really great example with this magazine. The people who are contributing to my magazine are probably going to want to promote this because they're in it. And so I get to leverage everyone else's audience. Someone like Kevin Harrington offered to email his list about this magazine. So he said in a talk that I was at recently that his following is over 1 million. James Malinchak is my third cover, which just finished today, and he's got a pretty sizable following, and he has also offered to do the same thing. And so that's the advantage of me having had a show. First, I know that a lot of people listening may not have. They might think, well, I don't have that kind of a platform. It took a while. My radio show is 6 years old. I had my 6-year anniversary in January. Sometimes you have to plant the seeds for a while. I mean, a lot of people talk about, grind, instant gratification. It doesn't always work like that. Think of a bamboo tree. If you're planting one of those Japanese bamboo trees, you plant the seed now. You might not see the fruit of that for I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. And then all of a sudden, when that bamboo tree finally sprouts out of the ground, it shoots up 90 feet in the air in just a few weeks. You see the fruit of it, and then it grows exponentially from there. That's where I'm at in my business right now. I've been planting the seeds for this radio show and for this magazine, and I'm making money ghostwriting now, but things are about to pop exponentially, and I couldn't be more excited about it. But that's, again, going back to repurposing things you've already done. I'll tell you something. When I had Jeffrey Gittermer on my show, he was my 100th guest. I asked him, when did you decide to write a book? He says, I never really ever decided that. I just started writing a blog about all the stupid things I see salespeople doing. And after I had 100 blog entries, I thought, this is a book. And so we did it.
Well, and I love how you give the analogy of, planting the bamboo seed. I talk to people all the time about you have to get started. People will say, well, you're so good at whatever it is. Well, before I was good at it, I was really bad. Mm-hmm. And before I was bad, I had to try. Mm-hmm. So you've got to get out there and do it. And, it's just like with my net webbing and creating the web so that all that you want comes to you. You got to get started. Mm-hmm. That train on the track doesn't become a locomotive that plows through a brick wall when mm-hmm. it's just sitting still. It's got to get going. The kite on the ground, you got to run like hell. You got to run to get that bad boy up in the air. So for those people that are listening, you don't have a radio show, like Brian, maybe you're not even doing a Facebook Live like what I'm doing, but you got a story inside of you. And if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner of any kind, you own a pet store, mm-hmm. I love your idea about the mechanic. Like any kind of a business, be seen, be heard, be the authority in the industry. And one of the best ways to do that is to just start with the book, mm-hmm. And some of the ways that I like to use my book is just really in the trenches. Like when I'm out, I've got my book with me all the time. If I'm sitting at Panera's, it's sitting on the table right next to me. I literally have had people stop and say, hey, is that you? And it just creates a conversation, but you never know. Right. There's pictures of me putting it on the shelf at Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble didn't order my book. I put it there and took a picture there, and I told everybody that's what I was doing. Have fun with what you're doing. That's how I get on stages. I tell people I have a book. I send them over a PDF of it. If I go to an event where there's a speaker in the room and I know that they are willing to bring in speakers, I go give the host of the event my book. I'll give the other speaker a book. Like, it's all about creating all these relationships so that there comes a point where all that you want just comes to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. That's really great. You have to be bold. And in fact, I'll tell you what, I did a Facebook Live a few weeks ago. I was at a fundraising event for the Boys and Girls Club here in the Phoenix metro area. And, Kevin Harrington spoke and Brandon Adams spoke and Shea Hillebrand, former Major League Baseball player, spoke. He lives out here now. And at the end of the night, all the people who were speakers or had something to do with putting the event together all stood on stage and gave their one big takeaway. And there's this one guy, and he said, if you want to be successful, you have to be willing to do bizarre and unreasonable things. And that is the thing that resonated with me. And so I did a Facebook Live about that. You have to have bizarre and unreasonable goals in order to succeed. You have to be willing to make bizarre and unreasonable sacrifices to make your dreams come true. And you have to implement bizarre and unreasonable strategies to make those dreams come true as well. And that's you all over the place. People would say, you can't do that. Watch me. I just did it.
I just did it live on Facebook.
I just did it. And so can you. Get out of here with that. Why can't I do it? Yes, you can. Anyone who tells you you can't, get out of here. The door is right there. Right. Those people don't belong in my life. They don't.
Absolutely. I was actually talking with a gentleman today, and as I was repeating back to him what he was saying, he said, when you say it, it sounds so believable. It sounds like I could really do it. He said, I got all these people who tell me that's crazy. I shouldn't do that. I should keep doing this thing that I've been doing. And I said, those are the employee mindset people. Mm-hmm. Those are the 97%ers that are staying in their place of security, although that's, some fictitious place to be.
Mm-hmm.
You got to change your playgrounds and playmates. I say it all the time. If you're hanging out with people that are telling you, why are you doing that? You shouldn't do that. It's like the Poseidon adventure, come this way, come this way. No, that way is going down with the ship, man. You got to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have unreasonable requests and get out there and get it done.
Yeah. And coming back to the point again about, I can't write a book. I did a bunch of Facebook Lives last year on similar but not the same topics. You can have those transcribed and repurposed into a book, very similar to what Jeffrey Gitomer did with his blog post. You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a lot more than just transcribing it and saying, here's my book. No, you have to edit it, because I'll tell you what, and here's a key thing that people don't remember, they don't think. You and I are talking on this Facebook Live, Cami, and when we're having conversation like this, everything that we're saying makes sense. But when you see the words in writing and you see all the filler phrases and all the sidebars and all the times where we start a sentence with an idea, but the sentence finishes with a completely different idea, it makes us look like idiots. Mm-hmm. And my job as a writer is to understand that conversations never happen in a straight line, but it is my job to make it appear as if it does. And sometimes that's hard. So
let me ask you this then. Our viewers, if they have, because that's a great point. I made those videos, I had them transcribed, but I was talking to the camera for 3 to 20 minutes, just like you just said. Mm-hmm. It would not make any sense. The transcription had to go to my editor. So for people who have a bunch of Facebook Lives or videos that they've created, can they give those transcriptions to you to make sense out of?
Yeah. Absolutely. I can absolutely do that. In fact, I've got one client, a real estate client in Texas. Instead of doing my normal process and procedure, what we did is they said, we have a podcast that we do about once a week. Sometimes we don't do it, but they wanted 20 chapters in this book. I'm like, great. And every chapter was one episode of their podcast, which ranged in length from 35 minutes to slightly over an hour. That took a long time because I had to sort out the sidebars and the banter. It was a husband and wife team. Of course, husband and wife, there'll be a lot of banter because they're just giving each other a hard time about stuff. Take out all this, take out all this, take out all this, and see what's left. That takes a while. So, and sometimes transcribing 20-hour-long episodes of something can get really expensive. So I listened to all of these, and because I wanted to get the sense of how they were working. But yes, you can do that. I've got other people. I'm working with a client right now. We're doing a public speaking book together. He's given me 4 audios, and I'm going through those transcripts and editing those. And each of those will become a chapter because each one is about one topic relating to the big umbrella topic. So yes, absolutely, we can do that. And I'm willing to work with people. If they've got content, all the better. Because
that's the thing. I want to make sure that our viewers know that, there's lots of different ways that Brian can put this book together for you. It doesn't have to be one specific way. Just contact him. Let him know that you've got a book inside you that is ripping at your soul to get out. That's the kind of person he wants to talk to. Brian, share with everybody how they can find you, because this is going to be going on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all over the place. So how can people reach you?
They can find me on Facebook, Brian K. Wright. And I look pretty much like I do, bald head, but my profile picture doesn't have the glasses. I've since started wearing reading glasses. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Brian K. Wright. You can email me, brian@briankwright.com. And that's Brian with an I, not with a Y. Brian@briankwright.com. And of course, Wright is spelled W-R-I-G-H-T. So awesome. Brian@briankwright.com. People spell my name wrong. Sometimes people spell it brain. I don't know if they just are dyslexic or they just don't know how to spell. And it used to really bug me when people would spell brain instead of Brian. But now I say, you know what? I'm really flattered, but you might want to look at that again. And they go, oh, I said brain. Here's a really great interpersonal relations tip. Let people discover their own mistakes. Because if I were to say, you spelled my name wrong, that can come off any multitude of different ways. But if I say, I'm flattered, but you might want to look at that again, it makes them look at their own work again. Oh, I spelled your name wrong. Yes, you did.
Well, imagine with Cami, I get Tammy,
Oh
and
my gosh.
Candy all the time. So I say it's Cami, like cameo, camshaft, camcorder, but I still have to spell it for them. But yeah, so we want everyone to be able to reach out to us and share in the blessing of having a book. It is the best calling card you can have.
Yes.
It's the best way to get on stages. It is the
Yes.
best way to actually be a contribution to the world, because guess what? Not everybody's actually going to read the damn thing. But for those who do, now you get all of your ideas out there. And one more thing, I'm going to be on Brian's radio show. I'm in the 3rd edition as a contributor with an article in the upcoming 3rd issue of his magazine.
Yep.
I am honored to have been selected. If you feel like you qualify to be a contributor in any way, you want to reach out to him as well, because this is all about being seen, being heard, and being the authority in your marketplace. And it's with the book, with the radio, with the print. And actually, Brian and I are working on putting that together for him for a new program about being seen, being heard, and being the authority. So it's been my honor and pleasure and privilege, Brian. Please know that I will get you a recording of this soon that you can share, and I can't wait to be on your radio show.
It'll be great. And the other thing too is, if it's any easier for those of you watching this on Facebook Live or on Facebook, just make a comment below the video and tag me in the comment. That way Facebook notifies me that, oh, your name appeared somewhere. So that means I have to go look at it and see who said my name. So if that's easier than looking anywhere else for me, make a comment below the video and tag me in that comment, and I will come back and respond when I see it.
Sweet.
It is.
We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.